2,000 years ago, amidst a suffocating crowd, a desperate woman extended her trembling hand. What happened next changed not only her life, but the history of humanity. Picture the dusty streets of Capernaum, the scorching sun, the noise of merchants, and a growing crowd following a man named Jesus. Among that crowd was a woman who for 12 years had carried a burden that society considered impure. Her name is not mentioned, but her faith would change everything. 12 long years of bleeding, 12 years of social isolation, 12 years being considered unclean by Jewish law, 12 years of hope that was fading away. Mark tells us she had spent everything she had on doctors. Every consultation, every treatment, every empty promise only made her condition worse. Her condition wasn't just physical. It was spiritual, social, emotional. She was banished from relationships, from the temple, from normal life. Then she heard about Jesus, not about his spectacular miracles, but about his compassion. Something inside her whispered, "This is your chance." She didn't want to be seen. She didn't want to be publicly rejected. Her plan was simple: touch just the edge of his cloak and disappear into the crowd. If I just touch his garments, I will be healed. It wasn't grandiose faith, but it was genuine. Sometimes God honors our vulnerability more than our strength. She approached from behind. Each step was an act of faith. Each movement, a silent prayer. The crowd pushed her, but she persisted. And then it happened. Her fingers touched the fringe of his cloak. Instantly, she felt in her body that she was healed. It wasn't gradual. It wasn't psychological. It was immediate, complete, inexplicable. 12 years of suffering disappeared in 1 second. Who touched me? Jesus asked. The disciples thought the question strange. There was a crowd pressing against him. But Jesus knew power had gone out from him. She wanted to escape, but couldn't. Trembling, she realized she would be exposed. Her secret healing would become public. Falling at Jesus' feet, she told him the whole truth. 12 years of pain poured out in a few minutes of total vulnerability. "Daughter, your faith has healed you." He didn't rebuke her for touching him. He didn't call her unclean. He called her daughter, a word she hadn't heard in years. Jesus didn't just heal her body. He restored her dignity, her identity, her place in society. It was a physical and social miracle. This story teaches us that no matter how long you've been suffering, no matter how unclean you feel, your faith, even if small, can touch the heart of God. Maybe you're in a crowd today, carrying your own 12-year burden. Maybe it's time to extend your hand and touch the cloak of Jesus. She came hidden, but left proclaimed, came sick, but left healed, came nameless, but left as daughter. And you? What will your story of faith be? The cloak she touched wasn't ordinary. The fringes, tzitzit, were sacred to Jews, representing God's commandments. She touched what was most holy. Modern doctors study this case. Chronic hemorrhaging causes severe anemia, extreme weakness, depression. Her instant healing defies all medical logic. Meanwhile, Jairus, a synagogue leader, was also seeking Jesus for his daughter. Two social extremes, the respected and the rejected. Jesus attended to both. The same crowd that made her approach difficult became witnesses to her healing. Sometimes our greatest obstacles become our greatest stages. When Jesus called her daughter, he used a word rarely addressed to adults. It was a term of intimate endearment, restoring her identity as God's beloved. She could have fled after the healing, but chose transparency. Her public vulnerability became a source of inspiration for generations. Her story broke barriers. Women with similar problems gained hope. She became a symbol that no condition is irreversible to God. Jesus didn't just say, "You are healed." He said, "Go in peace." It was a complete blessing. Physical health, emotional peace, spiritual restoration. Today we have our own impurities, depression, anxiety, addictions, trauma. Like her, many feel isolated, spending everything searching for healing. Jesus' cloak is still within reach. Through prayer, faith, communion. He continues to say, "Who touched me?" Awaiting our touch of faith. Her single touch created ripples through eternity. Every person who has found healing through faith, every miracle attributed to touching Jesus, it all traces back to this moment of desperate courage. Even today, doctors document cases of spontaneous remission that mirror her experience. Science calls it unexplained. Faith calls it the same power that flowed through Jesus' garment. 12 years changes you. It rewires your brain for survival, not hope. Yet she broke through learned helplessness with one moment of radical faith. Psychologists still study this transformation. Sometimes our greatest breakthroughs come at our breaking point. Her desperation wasn't weakness. It was the raw material that faith needed to work its miracle. In an age without social media, her story spread faster than any tweet. From mouth to mouth, heart to heart, her testimony became the first viral healing story in history. She had spent everything, not just money, but hope, relationships, dignity. Her healing wasn't just physical. It was financial restoration from a system that had exploited her desperation. In a male-dominated society, her story stands as a testament to God's equal love for women. She wasn't just healed. She was highlighted, celebrated, remembered for all time. Jesus was on his way to heal Jairus' daughter, an urgent mission, yet he stopped everything for one woman's faith. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in life's interruptions. Physical touch was forbidden for her, yet it became her pathway to healing. God often uses what the world calls unclean to demonstrate his clean, transforming power. Today, millions reach out in faith, in hospitals, churches, quiet bedrooms. Each touch of faith echoes her courage. Each healing testimony carries her DNA of desperate, determined faith. Her bleeding made her ritually unclean, untouchable. By Jewish law, anyone she touched became unclean too. Yet she dared to touch the holy rabbi, breaking every social rule. We don't know her name, yet we know her story. Sometimes the most powerful testimonies come from those who never sought fame, just healing. For 12 years, she fed an industry built on her suffering. Doctors, healers, charlatans, all profited from her pain. One touch of Jesus ended their lucrative business. Why that day? Why that moment? God's timing isn't early or late. It's perfect. Her Kairos moment intersected with Jesus' earthly ministry at exactly the right second. Hundreds pressed against Jesus that day, but only one touched him with faith. The crowd became unwitting participants in a divine drama they barely understood. The hem she touched was specially woven with blue threads techelet, a color more precious than gold. She touched heaven's color, and heaven responded. Kings and rulers would later seek Jesus for healing, approaching with ceremony and gifts. She came with nothing but need and received everything. Her bleeding represents all of us, life slowly draining away through sin, pain, broken relationships. Her healing shows that one touch can stop any hemorrhage. Who touched you seemed absurd to the disciples. Everyone was touching him. They couldn't distinguish between casual contact and faith-filled connection. Every faith-healing crusade, every prayer for the sick, every miracle service traces its lineage back to her. She became the mother of faith-healing ministry. She sold everything: jewelry, clothes, property. Poverty and sickness are cruel partners. Her story exposes how desperation makes us vulnerable to exploitation. In the second before she touched him, everything hung in balance. One woman's faith was about to shift the spiritual atmosphere of an entire generation. Blood clotting mechanisms, tissue regeneration, hormonal balance. Everything that was broken for 12 years was instantly recalibrated. Medicine calls it impossible. Faith calls it Tuesday. News of Jesus spread through networks of the desperate, the sick, the demon-possessed, the outcasts. She was part of an underground railroad of hope. Her bleeding had stolen more than health. It had stolen her womanhood, her ability to marry, bear children, participate in life. Jesus restored her complete feminine identity. Like the persistent widow in Jesus' parable, she refused to give up. 12 years of persistence prepared her for one moment of breakthrough. Power went out from him. Jesus felt the transaction. Faith creates a spiritual electromagnetic field that draws divine power. Her need magnetized his healing energy. Everything had to align perfectly. Jesus' route, the crowd size, her positioning, her courage, his awareness. Divine conspiracy orchestrated this moment. 12 years of victimhood ended with one act of agency. She stopped being a victim of her circumstances and became an agent of her destiny. When Jesus asked who touched me, he exposed the first faith healer, not himself, but her faith. She became the first person to demonstrate that faith itself heals. When she told him the whole truth, she experienced therapeutic release. Sometimes the telling of our story completes the healing that started with the miracle. Her public healing was a quiet revolution. Every social barrier, every religious restriction, every gender limitation was challenged in that moment. Hundreds needed healing that day. Why her? The mystery of divine selection remains, but one thing is clear: desperation combined with faith creates irresistible spiritual gravity. Virtue went out of him. The first recorded case of energy healing. 2,000 years before modern energy medicine, Jesus demonstrated that healing power is transferable. For 12 years, she consumed healing services. In one moment, she became the service, a living testimony that would heal millions through her story. 12 years of involuntary fasting from normal life prepared her spirit for this moment. Sometimes our greatest deprivations become our greatest preparations. Archaeologists have uncovered the very streets where this happened. The stones that witnessed her healing still lie beneath layers of history in modern-day Israel. 12 years of bleeding, 12 disciples, 12 tribes, the number of divine government. Her healing represented God's governmental authority over sickness. Every prayer for the sick since that day carries her DNA. She became the first intercessor, not through words, but through her example of breakthrough faith. Modern neuroscience shows that trauma creates neural pathways of pain. Her instant healing required not just physical restoration, but complete neurological rewiring. She bankrupted herself on earthly health care, then received the ultimate health insurance policy, one touch that covered everything forever with no deductible. She diagnosed herself: if I touch him, I'll be healed. No medical consultation needed. Faith provided better diagnostics than any doctor could offer. Throughout history, mothers have shown this same desperate faith for their children. She became the archetype of feminine faith that refuses to accept impossible. Her 12 years of pain became a seminary education in faith. Suffering can either embitter us or prepare us for miraculous breakthrough. Before printing presses or media, her story spread through the ancient equivalent of going viral, person to person, heart to heart, miracle to miracle. Not only was she healed, but 12 years of lost life were redeemed in an instant. God doesn't just heal, he restores the years the locusts have eaten. Her condition may have been hereditary, affecting generations of women in her family line. Her healing broke generational patterns of sickness and shame. She tested her hypothesis: if I touch him, I'll be healed. The immediate result provided evidence that faith is not blind, it's scientifically verifiable. She graduated from survivor to thriver to testifier. Her journey from victim to victor to voice continues to inspire millions facing their own 12-year battles. That single touch still echoes through eternity. Every healing prayer, every faith declaration, every desperate reach toward heaven carries the frequency of her courageous contact.